Hey, welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, where we let the inner warrior shine in their light. Today, I have the pleasure of Cathy Compton again, part two of her journey and her story. Part one was so amazing and got such well received, and I had such an honor and a pleasure of talking to her. I just had to have her back on and see where she's progressing today. Cathy, thank you for joining me, and I appreciate you and your time, and I just thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. It's always great spending time with you.
Well, last time we talked about your journey from childhood to coaching LSU, two-time Hall of Fame coach that you are, to working with Olympic athletes and professional sports team. We talked about your philosophy and what got you all there. Now I'd kind of like to dive into your recent successes. You're a trainer, you're a speaker, you're an author, I think an author.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to kind of, highlight, all these good things that you're doing. And the one thing that's a common denominator in all of your successes has been your mindset. Like, you've just chosen to be successful.
Yeah, no, what a great way to lead into it. It's funny. I think I shared the last time I was on how as a kid, I could visualize laying in a beanbag chair and I could actually just let myself get moved by, at the time, it was Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which is a very spiritual book, music. And it has this one song called B-E. And I would just lay there and I would see myself as an adult later on in life being successful, but more or less soaring. I could just see myself being that seagull. And it's interesting because almost everything I thought of, dreamt of, visualized has become fulfilled. And I continue to use practices to do that because I really believe what we think repeatedly, what we say, what comes out of our mouth, literally what we create, kind of like abracadabra, as you speak, so it is. And then having that belief that it's already there, it's already available. It's already done. It's just kind of chipping away, kind of like the statue David. It's already there, just chipping away at not David. I really live by that philosophy, and I've proven it so many times to myself, and even when working with people, that is powerful stuff, that anything can be accomplished if you create it, you speak it, you get that it's already there. You just get consistent with what it would be to be consistent. And Olympic athletes, if you were to ever interview an Olympic gold medalist, and I have spent time with a number of highly successful athletes, they will tell you they could literally feel the medal around their neck. They could almost like smell the podium and the situation and hear the fans, and having won the medal, the gold medal, long before they ever did, just like the Roger Bannister story. So yeah, powerful stuff.
I was listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza audiobook, and he was talking about these Japanese studies, and they had a study. They had one group who learned to play the piano, and then they had another group who just visualized learning to play the piano but never played it. And those people that just visualized it over a repeated amount of time and felt it could actually then come in front of a piano and play the notes. And he did the same thing with strength, muscle. Like, he had a group of people who would just visualize lifting weights and feel it. It's not just the visualization, it's adding the feeling and the intent. And they measured, and their strength increased even though they hadn't even lifted a weight.
Yeah, there's some really interesting things when you think of the body and the mind and what's possible. And I remembered reading when I was in graduate school, getting my sports psychology degree, that they did similar studies with there was people in prison, believe it or not, and they would have them visualize golfing.
Mm-hmm.
So they would literally have them go through this whole golf process. And when they got out, and one particular gentleman went and won a tournament, and literally played the best he had ever played and had not played in years. Literally had not played. Now, golf, we all know, is a fine motor skill sport. You don't just go out and golf. Let's just put it that way. And he was able to do that. And one of my favorite stories back from graduate school days was when I was at the University of Iowa. I was teaching a relaxation course. I don't remember the name exactly, but I know we were laying on the gym floor and I was walking them through a field of daisies. They were laying in a field of daisies, and the sky was blue and the wind was blowing, and a woman in my class had an allergic reaction. Come to find out, she was allergic to daisies.
Yeah. So. I don't think people understand the power of that, but it's not just wishful thinking. It's intent. It's connecting the emotion. It's picturing the specific outcome. But there's a balance, because you have to have intent, but not expectation. Like you have to, in what your intention is, but the package to which you receive it. Like if you're trying to manifest a new job or a new romance or whatever, you can set your criteria of what you want, but you can't set the time frame to which it arrives or how it's going to be presented to you. So it's a fine line of that balance, but it takes more than just wishing and hoping. You have to have a really solid like connection with the emotion and the picture and the intent.
Yeah, really well said. I don't think any of us really quite know how it all works, how manifestation and all that. I do think it's an energy thing. I do think that once we're so clear and we can actually experience it and think about it and dwell in it and believe it and take actions consistent with it, it kind of makes sense that the odds of it coming to fruition would be greatly increased. So, how much of it is that and how much of it is something else? But I've had so many instances, including a time when I said I would be debt free. And I literally said, I don't care how it would happen. Because at the time I had bought a house, paid cash, had some debt. Long story short, I remember thinking a week later, I was in a major car accident, cars totaled. I ended up having a knee replacement out of it. And when I got the check, and I'll never forget this, it was literally a match for what I was in debt. And I was like, did I create that? Is that literally coincidence? Like just coincidence? And I, at the time, didn't think it was.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I follow a lot of what Dr. Joe says. And again, in that book, he talks about how we're all energy, but energy is nothing. It's a frequency, and all frequencies carry data. And so he paints this picture of the radio, right? You can't see any of the waves. You can't, feel the radio around you. But if you have a receiver in front of you and you turn it to a dial, it picks up the data that frequency is carrying. Now, if you want to hear a different one, you turn the dial and it picks up the data that a different frequency is hearing.
Yeah.
And we can't see it. We can't feel it. We don't know it's there, but all the frequencies carrying data. And we just have to tune ourselves into being the right frequency to match what we're desiring and wanting.
Yeah, no, that's the cool thing is science has already proven things like that are possible and they're happening. And you and I have even experienced something in a little bitty patch that has the ability to send frequencies into the body. And somehow in the sending of those frequencies and the reflecting back of our body's heat and all of that, it's able to do things like reduce pain or calm a body down or increase and balance your hormones so you sleep better. And for years, I've been using them for, going on like 12 years now. I'm still trying to figure out how they work. And I don't really know that exactly, but I do know that there's some things that we just don't understand or can't explain, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means we don't understand it. Just our rational brain can't comprehend it.
Yeah, it's sort of like gravity. We don't know that how it works, but we know that if we step off a building, gravity will take place.
Yes. Yep. You got that right. What is
So,
that book, by the way, that Joe Dispenza?
Becoming Supernatural.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yep, I've heard of that one. Haven't read it, but I've heard
Yeah.
of it.
I started to read it. It's a very tough read because Joe's a neuroscientist, so he speaks in linguistic language.
Yes.
Um, so what I did instead is I got the audio version, and now I just listen to it, and I can understand it better audibly than trying to read it. So
Yeah.
that helped me better. But yeah, he speaks very, because he speaks in his nerdy neuroscience,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but he paints
You're
those
a pretty
pictures.
sharp guy. I'm sure you understand most of it. You're a very intelligent, thinker and study things and learn. You're definitely a student of the game of life and study a lot, read a lot, study a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. One of the things that I'm interested in and curious about, you have a new project that you're kind of learning and growing into. Um, are you at a point where you can kind of share the framework of what that involves?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. It's a couple of things. I have a couple of philosophies. One, you'll find what you're looking for. If you're clear, you're looking for something. If I told you, go out and look at all the red cars, you're going to see a ton of them, Daryl. You will see more red cars than you've seen in a long time. So you'll find what you're looking for. Much of the time, we're not looking for it or for something. And so, yes, I've been always searching for what has human beings, what could take someone to the next level? What could have them get out of their own way so they could be so fully self-expressed, so free, so empowered, able to give their gifts, show their gifts, and thrive and thrive. And the more I look, the more I find things. So what I discovered recently was a gentleman named Shirzad created a program all based in science, definitely based in the neuroscience and the positive intelligence, peak performance, flow energy, flow state, all the different sciences that came together. And it's called PQ, stands for positive intelligence. And what it basically is that the way our human brains are designed is more than not for survival. Like we could go back through history and find out why that is, but we're designed for survival. We're designed to recognize threats and then to be able to take actions. The problem is it works when you've got your hand accidentally on a hot stove. You recognize it and you pull your hand off the hot stove. But what's happened to us over time is we put our hand on the hot stove and we don't remove it. And then we think something's wrong, but we don't get, no, it's just on the hot stove. Pick your hand up and remove it. And what that looks like is we do things, our brain goes to the left side, which is he calls it the saboteur side. There's technical terms and descriptions of the brain, and I won't get into that, but it's the left side of the brain, and it's where the saboteurs live, and there's 9 of them. They all fall under the umbrella of judge. So essentially, when you're judging yourself, others, someone else, the situation, and you're disempowered, you are utilizing that side of the brain, and you will not produce the kind of results you want to. You will not be free. In fact, you'll suffer and maybe even sabotage yourself. Thus, they're called the saboteurs. And there's 9 that fall under the judge category. And I'll give you just a few, because people will find themselves in this. We all know people, sometimes it's even in us, and we're all 9 at different levels. Some might be negligible. Some might be, really high score. But there are things like avoider. There's a part of us in our human machinery that when something happens that's uncomfortable, hard, frustrating, disempowering, some of us will literally go in the opposite direction, avoid it, paying taxes, going to the gym, whatever. And it's literally the brain doing that thing. So that's just one. There's victim. We know people who literally dwell in the world of life is treating me poorly. It's not my fault. Why does that always happen to me? And we all have some of that. Some people have a very high level of it. There's one of my favorites is called hyperachiever. And well, there's two of mine that are my favorites because they're my top two. Hyperachiever. And what that is that's someone who says, I'm empowered, I'm satisfied, I'm fulfilled. I feel and experience myself as valuable when I'm performing and I've achieved something. When I've done well, or somebody says, man, that was awesome, or you were great, or oh my gosh, it lifts me up and I'm empowered. The moment I'm not in that situation, maybe I made a mistake or I just didn't do anything, I slip to being disempowered. And it's literally called hyperachiever, because that might explain why I'm in 2 halls of fame, why I've won more things than you can imagine, why I'm still one of the highest rated coaches in the women's softball in the world, because it was chasing that carrot, but this isn't it. Maybe that's it. I'll win championships. Nope, that's not it. I'll go to LSU. Nope, that's not it. I'll coach professionally. That will be it. And I'll win there. That will be it. Nope, that's not it. I'll leave coaching and I'll go start my own coaching business. That's what a hyperachiever looks like. And then the other one is called pleaser. Again, it's my number one, actually. And it's that I will give and support and help, shirt off the back. What do you need? Which is not a bad thing. And the reason it's a saboteur is because it's not empowering. I get to a point where I experience either, why is nobody supporting me? Why, I give and give, like, gosh, at some point you owe me kind of thing. Or I give, and this, people can find themselves in this, I give to a point where I feel depleted, where I feel like there's nothing left. That's why it's a saboteur. Now, let's look at the other side. Well, what do you do? Because that's the world, that's the water we swim in. And there's others. There's, so that's the pleaser. There's restless. These are your high achievers, movers and shakers, entrepreneurs. Restless. It's like, we're going to do this. They get all excited. They go start, and then they get bored, or they get disenfranchised, or they're just like, I don't know. And then they run over here, and then they run over there. They're always running there. They call it restless, and they can't actually complete something, and then they get disempowered. So that's restless. And there's a few others. The right side of the brain, which is where you can train yourself to go. And by the way, if you were to do some studying of the brain, you would actually see gray matter in your brain in certain areas of the brain. You'll actually see the result of the saboteur at work. There's techniques that we train people in, and believe it or not, some of the most simplest things in the world, like that could take you 10, 15, 20 seconds to do. And what you do is you retrain your brain, instead of going that way and looking there, to look over here. And you literally train your brain. It's a 7-week program. And what it trains you to do is to go into what we call the sage. This is what he calls them: saboteur, sage. And I'll give you an example of what those are. One of the sages is called the gift. Well, what's that? Well, I'll give you a quick story. So when Christopher Reeve's Superman fell off the horse and was paralyzed, for most of us, we couldn't even fathom that would be like the end of life as we know it. One of the most horrible, saddest, worst situations imaginable. The interesting thing is when they interviewed him before he died, he said the happiest years of his life were when he was paralyzed, because he had the ability to take what happened, instead of looking at it as a why me, this sucks, I'm done, it's not fair. He had the ability to look at what was the intention, what's the gift out of this? How can I make a difference and leave a legacy and impact people? And he used that as a gift, and he saw it as a gift. He saw being paralyzed as a gift. That's the sage working versus the saboteur. How do we know he was empowered? How do we know he made a difference? How do you know? He said he was happy. He was fulfilled. He was empowered. So that's one, the gift. Another one is explore. Most of the time when something happens, we go to, well, that's not right. I'm going to check out. I'm going to make you wrong. In fact, I'll kill you off, not literally, but kill you off. I'll take my ball, go home. I'll divorce you. I just won't talk to you. The explorer will look at a situation and say, wow, what is that person trying to teach me? They're actually literally yelling at me. I wonder what's going on in their life such that they would feel the need to have to do that. And I wonder how I could actually make a difference for them. And you start to explore, like kind of like if you got a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, you wouldn't just fold your hands and say, well, this sucks. You'd actually start to explore what you would do, but you can train yourself to do that. So those are just a couple. I could give you all of them, but Daryl, the cool thing about it is it's neuroscience, it's peak performance, it's positive intelligence, it's emotional intelligence, it's flow state, all rolled up into performance. And it's simple tools that you retrain your brain to use. So
yeah, I think, and I think it's important to, people are stubborn, and change, Tony Robbins says, the pain of change has to be greater than the pain of staying where you are, or you don't do anything. So we're reluctant. Even, I mean, you can tell me, hey, you need to lose 20 pounds. Yeah, I know I need to lose 20 pounds, but I like, donuts better than I like the gym. So I'm not gonna, change right away. But as soon as I have the vision of, not being able to walk my daughter down the aisle, or not being healthy enough to do activities in my older age, well, suddenly that pain is more than, my pain, and I start to take action. But it has to be small step, actionable stuff. I can't go to a trainer and say, hey, pump me with 100 pounds right away. I haven't lifted a weight in like 7 years. So, you got to start small and work your way up to that. So I like that your action steps are simple. They're easy to consume, which means people are going to do them. And then once they see those results, they'll do them even more and longer. So is it your intention to train or coach, or what's your intention with this?
yeah, I went through the program and got so much value. And the moment I got to the end and they said, some of you coaches and people out in the world that, work with people may want to be certified to actually deliver this. You want to be able to train people, deliver the presentations, deliver the webinars, train people and coach them through it. And I was like, that's me, because I really believe, we're put on this planet to do something. And one of my gifts is to see where people are stuck and have them create what they want in life versus just living by default. And, and so I'm in the process of getting certified, and you actually get the tools. It's an app. So you literally in your phone can open your phone up and listen to the audiobook. They call it going to the PQ gym, kind of like going to the gym, up the street. You literally go there to build a muscle. And as you build that muscle, you can do things you could not do before. And eventually you just are stronger. You no longer have to think about it. You no longer have to look down and say, can I do this? No, you can do it. Athletes do it all the time. So yeah, I'm in the process of getting certified, and I'm actually doing a pilot program coming up because I want to run people through it before I actually really take it out there and launch it. So if any of your viewers are interested in going through the pilot program, that's going to be starting probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks. And we're at May 5th. So somewhere around June is where I'm going to launch the pilot program. And I literally want to put people through it and then measure the results and give them access to something that'll blow their mind, quite honestly. I've worked with some of the best athletes in the world, and even some of the best athletes in the world don't know this and don't have access to it. And that's a shock to me. So I'm here to make sure people have access. And not only that, but they can master the techniques and the tools so that they can use it. They don't need anybody. I mean, everybody needs a coach, and that's why you're here. Everybody needs a great coach. But, the ability to be able to interrupt the train wreck before it happens and have the train go down the track intentionally, full speed, that's what it provides. So.
Well, we're speaking now. It's May. I was just trying to look at the schedule. I think this will be coming out probably around like June 28th. So that'll be like a good time. So
great. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah. Again, people can contact me because I'll likely do a couple of different pilot programs, and it was gifted to me, interestingly enough. And it was one of the greatest gifts anyone has ever given me, because it truly has impacted my life. And as I said, I've studied emotional intelligence. I've studied NLP. I've studied a lot of different things. My background is in psychology, sports psychology even. And I didn't really fully know or understand this science, this technology. And when I did, it was a game changer for me. And it still is. I use it myself, and I can redirect from a disempowering situation, a conversation that's not going well, waking up on the wrong side of the bed, and within seconds, I can shift over, start creating. And I tell you, every time I've done that, I've gotten more business. I've gotten, for sure, more freedom, relationships way better. But the thing that's been so fascinating to me is the business. Every time I do it, that ends up being one of my best days or one of my best weeks in terms of getting new business, getting new clients. And I'm like, there's something to this. People need to know.
Yeah. Well, I will make sure that you send me the links and we put them in the video comments below, so that people can reach out, because I'm excited for it as well. So you stated earlier, and you mentioned it in the first interview as well, that when you were a little kid just laying in that beanbag chair, you saw your future. Would you say that you saw it as you have it now, or is now even better than you saw it?
Oh, what a brilliant question. It wasn't like I saw myself in a stadium with people all around winning championships and, coaching Olympic athletes. It wasn't like I saw it specifically. It was more like I saw myself soaring. I saw myself able to do things that most people couldn't do. And it was more of an experiential thing, like that I had the ability to fly or to soar or to be free. And that's a big part of it. Is I would literally feel my body kind of vibrate in a way. And sometimes there'd even be tears. And to this day, I get moved and I can bring myself to tears when you see human beings, ordinary people, do something extraordinary, and that we all have that in us. So I would say, yes, it's what I envisioned as a kid, but what I didn't envision, and this is why PQ and even bank code is so valuable, if we have a minute to talk about that, is that what I didn't envision is that I would sabotage myself and people around me over and over and over again, and try to push a big rock up a hill, and wouldn't know I'm doing it. Like wouldn't even know that there's anything going on, that there's access to not that. So that's what I didn't see as a kid that I now see.
Yeah, I can relate to that because, and Elsa, my wife, and I were talking about this the other day. I feel like I've lived almost my entire life as not my life, as what it could have been.
Wow.
It wasn't until recently that and recently I mean within the last several years, finally let go of the fear and the doubt and the intrepidation, and just stepped into who I was supposed to be, and now living the life that I'm meant to live, and it is so different to push that boulder up the hill. And if you're anything like I am, you push the boulder really, really well, and you get it almost to the top, and then you let it go, and you stand there as it rolls over you, and then you walk back down the hill and push it back up again.
That's so interesting, because even the highest, the most some of the smartest minds, the brilliant, the coaches like yourself, part of what it is to be human is we do that kind of stuff. We put our hand on the hot stove, as I mentioned, and we keep putting our hand on the same hot stove, knowing that it's hot. But we don't know, or we do know, but we don't have access to not doing that. Or another example is, the difference between mice and a maze. If we were to put cheese down a tunnel, if a mouse goes down the tunnel and they go through the path and they see there's no cheese at the end of that path, that tunnel, they'll come back and they actually won't go down that tunnel again. There's no cheese down that tunnel. Human beings will go down the same tunnel over and over and over and over again. And then they'll blame someone else that there's no cheese down there. It's because of my mom. It's definitely my dad's fault. In fact, my husband, if my husband wasn't here, I bet I'd find cheese down the end of that tunnel, but there is no cheese. And the human being, the human brain is wired to do the same thing over and over again inside of when they're operating on the left side of the brain, when they're operating in the sage. And by the way, it has nothing, Daryl, to do with are you right-handed or left-handed, or it has nothing to do with that. It's literally the part of the brain that's there to have you survive, that's there to say there's a threat. Now, this is the thing. Back in the days, there were threats, and it was a good thing we had that going on because it literally saved our species. However, we now to this day take things as threats that are nothing more than a text message or a phone call or, you know, someone not liking your Facebook post.
Right.
And the brain has somehow rewired itself, which, by the way, I'm not a fan. If you've ever read any of my posts, and I know you have, because you and I'm a big fan of yours. I read everything you post. All I ever do is post something that makes you think, get you out of your comfort zone, get you, you know, to a point where you realize, oh my gosh, this is it. This is your moment. This is what you've been waiting for, like you just spoke about. You'll never see me saying, you know, doesn't it stink that so-and-so did such and such, or so-and-so's wrong, or boy, doesn't it suck that it's raining or not raining, or I just don't believe in that. And, you know, and I don't like comparing either, because what happens is the brain goes right immediately into the saboteur. If you're comparing or judging the judge, it's on the left side. There's no way around it.
Yeah, and it's a blind spot that most of us don't see, which is why coaches like you and I are there to help. Like, why are we stuck? Well, we're stuck because we're blind to that thing, and we need to open up that neural pathway to see the red car, because we told you the red car is there, right?
Right. Yeah, one of my favorites, and if we had time, I don't even know if we can play videos, but I'll tell your fans and your viewers, there's a clip out there that basically is a study in what we're talking about. And they said what they do is they have, like, I think it's like 4 people standing in a circle with a basketball, and they're passing the basketball back and forth. And as they pass it to the next, the next, the next. And they do this study, and they have the people in the audience, or even on Zoom, it works on Zoom. They tell them, count the number of passes of the basketball. And as they're passing it, the people start moving, and they're passing and they're moving it. Well, about halfway through it, there's what appears to be a gorilla, but it's actually a person in a gorilla suit that walks almost right through the circle. 95% of the people will not see it.
Yep.
They just won't see it. Now, it's there. It's clearly there. You would think that any one of us, if a gorilla walked behind you, you would think I would see it.
Yeah.
But the way we are wired is we see what we're focused on, what we're looking at, and it will literally shut out opportunities. It'll shut out great things. It'll shut out love. It will sabotage you. That's how powerful our brains are. And I've played that before for people. And the second time I tell them, now watch for the gorilla.
Yeah.
And every single person there sees it. And they'll say to me, that wasn't there before. And I'll say, I played the exact same video. And they'll say, no, you couldn't have. You couldn't have, because it's so obvious it's there. And I'm like, listen, same video.
Send me the link to that, and we'll drop it in the comments below so
Great.
people can watch the video. I've seen that, and I understand what you're talking about. It's funny because Elsa and I joke because when she was working from her office to our house, she'd have to go by the same street every day. And at Christmas time, the one store would put literally on the curb a 40-foot Santa. And she'd be driving home, and of course I see everything for whatever reason. My brain does that. But so I asked her, I said, hey, did you see the Santas up? And she's like, what Santa? Like the 40-foot Santa that's on the corner. so now it's a running joke between her and I when she, misses it. I was like, hey, the 40-foot Santa, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, what a great example. The thing though that's so I guess interesting in us human beings is that we make meaning of that. So it's not so much that we don't see something, we miss an opportunity, we don't lose the weight we say we want to lose, we don't get the raise at the job that we wanted. But it's the moment something happens, our brain is designed to give it attach some kind of meaning to it. Unlike animals, where, if a lion is running after its prey and it doesn't catch it, it doesn't go home and say, I am such a loser. In fact, tomorrow, I don't even think I should go out because odds are I'm not going to catch it again. It just goes out tomorrow. But the human brain will do something, interpret it, not even see what's really there, and then make it mean something. And then we live our life like whatever we made that mean is the truth, is the way it is. And sometimes we can prove it over and over again. It's not real, but it doesn't matter. Kind of like the boogeyman under the bed. You would think maybe as children, once we got, no, really, look, it's a box. It is not a boogeyman, it is a box. You would think we would grow up as adults and say, no, that's not real. I'm an extraordinary human being. I can do anything. I'm very powerful. I'm very smart. I'm very talented. I'm very loving, and instead we grow up with horrible stories that we then live life inside of.
Yeah. And it's a tragedy because there is so much infinite potential inside each one of us. We just have to unlock the key and believe that we have the key to unlock it.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's not externally, it's internally.
Yeah, it totally is. One of the analogies I give sometimes, especially when I'm working with somebody around the view that they have and how they have an occurring inside that view, is that I'll tell them it's like you're in a prison, but the door is open. And every time we walk by, you're still sitting in there. And we're like, but the door is open. And, what I think sometimes it boils down to is it's more comfortable. It's actually, I call it comfortably miserable inside because at least they know the surroundings.
Yeah. And that's the Shawshank Redemption, thing where it was more comfortable to be in prison than out in the real world. But another illustration of all that is anytime you've ever seen an elephant tied to a tiny little stake and he just stays there.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been trained mentally that this is his cage. Well,
yeah, I love that. I actually, when I send out my, what do you call it? Gift, what the heck do we call them? The boxes that you send out when you've got a training you're doing. And I just got one the other day, actually. Really cool. I just got one the other day with all kinds of stuff in it because I'm doing a marketing training. And
your swag bag.
Yes, swag bag. Yeah, I'll attach these ropes that are very similar to what you're talking about and then attach the story to it because it is absolutely true. That is real. That's how they train an elephant. They put a stake in the ground, attach a rope to its little leg. It's just a little bitty elephant, so it can't go anywhere, but it's just a matter of time before they remove the stake. And as long as they have that rope on its leg, an elephant, which could move a house if it probably wanted to, it will not move. It will not budge. And that's what we do as we grow and go through life.
Yeah, that's a shame. You mentioned Codebreakers. We talked a little bit about it in the first interview. I'm sure not everyone caught that magnificent body of work that we did together, but if you would love to touch on it again tonight, I know you mentioned it.
I would. My second passion is communication, because I just have this dream or this philosophy that if human beings could communicate, and I don't mean talk at each other, I don't mean be able to speak 5 languages, but actually communicate where I got your communication. I don't even agree with it, but I got it, and I honor you in what you value, what you believe, because what you believe is what you believe, and what you value is what you believe, what you value, and I honor that. And then to experience you honoring me. So Codebreaker Technologies is a company that came up with a methodology. What they basically did is they reverse engineered, how do I say this? They, Hippocrates, many years ago, thousands of years ago, in fact, would treat people based on their body types, their essentially their code, and there were 4 of them. And so he would actually treat people. So there were people who were hyper, and he would treat them certain ways, and other people. Well, the owner of our company, when she was in business and network marketing and was killing it, making $700 a year, decided she had to learn how to connect with people, how to communicate. She had high energy. She was a mover and shaker. She'd do anything. But the people she was with were turned off instead of turned on. So she started studying personality science. And there's a lot of them out there, hundreds, if not thousands of them, but they're all grounded in psychology. This methodology is grounded in biology, which is you don't learn more about you, you do, but you learn about why the person across from you, what has them buy? What has them buy a product? What has them buy you? And it's a very simple tool. You can literally, we call it cracking someone's code, their personality code, 90 seconds. And if you understand what those values are in the code that just got cracked, you can literally turn a no or a maybe into a yes. You can have a relationship that looks like it's going sideways, divorce court, to where love is present again. In fact, it's better than it's ever been. And so we give people access to crack their code. And the cool thing is we do it free of charge. So you get the code, you crack it, you do it in a matter of about 90 seconds, and you get a report sent on you. And this is interesting, Daryl, because I was just at my house yesterday. I'm not at my house right now. I'm at my friends watching their cats while they're out of town. But I was at my house, and anytime I'm not at my house for a lengthy period of time, I Airbnb it. I know that sounds weird, but it's just this extra way to help people and make some money. And there's a gentleman from Washington, D.C. there, and he said, stop over. I want to meet you. I've been staying here a couple of weeks. I want to meet you. So I stopped over, and sooner or later he said, what do you do? Well, I said, well, let me show you. So I pulled out the cards. I cracked his code. He was what we would call a blueprint knowledge. And his fiance walked up and said, as I was describing his life to him, and eyes were getting bigger, she started laughing. She said, how do you know all of that about him? You've never met him. And I said, no, but I know his code. And then I said, how about you crack your code? So we cracked her code again, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. And she was the exact opposite of his code. And I said, oh, this is good. Can I contribute to you? And they said, please do. And I said, this is how this goes. He's ready to leave. He's ready to plan going up to the Grand Canyon. He's got the car ready to go. He says, we're leaving at this time. He's planned where they're going to eat. Why? Because it's cost effective, and he knows ahead of time. She's late getting into the car. She says, let's just wing it. Let's just go wherever we feel like going. She doesn't even want to come back when they said they would come back. And so a conversation ensues. And what that looks like is he's very factual. That's the knowledge part. He's very methodical, very detailed, connecting the dots, works within the budget, follows the rules. She's the opposite, breaks the rules, says, hey, if we're having fun, who cares? And hey, who cares about the amount of money? We're on vacation. And by the way, we're together. And what means more than anything is we're together. We're just having fun. And when I said that to them, it was as if they had just paid me thousands of dollars to look at a crystal ball and to see and to tell them their future. Because I literally turned to them and said, you guys are engaged. If you get this, and it's easy enough to do, you will, if you choose to have a marriage, you will have a marriage and it can work. If you don't, you'll be one of those statistics, most likely. And I said, and you, sir, you're a project manager, aren't you, of a big company? And he said, how did you know that? And I said, that's because what your code does. And he said, yes, I am. And I said, let's train your people, because if they can communicate, and if you're hiring people, your HR can hire the right people for the right positions. Now you've got a winning formula. And by the way, your corporate team, if they know how to lead people, communicate, work together, they're going to be successful. I said, it'll turn your whole company around. And so within a matter of 45 minutes, their relationship was impacted. We have an opportunity to work with his company, and and all I did was share an opportunity with them. So yeah, so if any of your viewers want to crack their code and get their own report, and again, there's no fee involved in it. You get a detailed report about your own code, your personality. They would go to crack my code. This is all one word, crackmycode.com / and then the word leadership. crackmycode.com / leadership. And what they'll do is read these values. They'll say, this one's me predominantly. Maybe this one goes next. This one goes next. This one goes next. And then once you submit it, you'll get a report sent to you. And then we do all kinds of trainings. We do all kinds of introductions and a lot of fun stuff, actually. We use AI. We do a lot of different things.
We actually we'll put that in the links for your video as well, so people can get it. And having experienced that with my own wife, it did literally change I mean, we had been together 7 years before meeting you, 8 years before meeting you, and it literally changed the dynamic of how we communicate with each other, because we now understood better. You know, it wasn't just one person being obstinate or stubborn or whatever. It was wired in their DNA, and having that understanding allowed for better communication and understanding of why it's happening, not just that it is happening. So, and I did have a few of my audience members take advantage of that last time, and they were thrilled.
That's great.
So yeah, we'll put that link back out there.
That's great. I say it's kind of like you're not turning into somebody else. This isn't like compromise your values. It's almost like if you're sitting in an airplane and you pop down the thing and you start to watch TV and you have 4 choices, Spanish, English, Russian, and Korean. And you're like, oh, well, I'll pick the English one because that's what I speak. And then all of a sudden it started talking back to you in Korean. You would be like, that's weird. I don't understand it. I'm not even interested. Well, that's what we do to each other. We force our style. It's kind of like the golden rule. I force on you, I do unto you as I want you to do unto me. Well, I want you to do unto me because that's how I am. It has nothing to do with you. But what if I could treat you, do to you, serve you, communicate with you the way you want to, inside of your values, your unique values? And the really cool thing, Daryl, is you can train somebody, and within a matter of a day. We had a guy in one of our one-day courses who was a business coach. And I think I shared this story with you. He left early. It was a 2-day for him. He was in a 2-day. He left early the first day because he was meeting with a client. And he literally used what he got that day, cracked the guy's code. He came back the next day and he said, I closed a $36,000 coaching contract that would have taken me weeks to close and might have even lost the guy in the past. He said, and I did it that day within an hour. He said, that's never happened before. So it's a pretty cool tool, easy to use, fascinating with the results. And I'm glad we get the chance to share it with your viewers.
Yeah, we'll make sure that they see that. It's a really good thing. Well, you're doing some amazing things. You're always on fire and living life large. I love where you're headed and what you're doing. What is a final thought that you would impart on the audience this time?
Oh, wow. Thank you for that opportunity. They say we get to the end of our life and we don't regret the things we did. We regret the things we didn't do. And, sometimes you get to the end of your life and you get it. You get it, that it's all almost like one big game. We're the character in the game. And we have a say in how the game goes. Why? Or the book, how the book goes. Why? Because we're the author. But we don't live life like that. We live life like somebody else is writing the chapter and the story of my life. And what I would say to your viewers and the people that, trust you and show up and listen to this is that you can create anything and fulfill on anything. And while it does take something, it's not as hard as you think. It starts with your language. Start to tell people what you want. When Kennedy said man on the moon, we had no way to put a man on the moon. We didn't even have the spaceships or anything. The moment he said it, it became real. And then people realigned around him. You know, things, NASA was built and we put a man on the moon. But had he never said that, it probably never would have happened. So I would leave your viewers with, say what you want. Allow yourself to dream again. Allow yourself to say what you want. Be willing to dream it and see it and even taste it. Go sit in that nice car. You know, open up the magazine and look at Machu Picchu and see yourself having a spiritual experience, doing something that's been on your bucket list for 30 years. And then just take some actions, even if it's just one action consistent with that, and see what happens. Yeah, that's what I would say to your viewers.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. And as always, I asked the one final question I asked you last time, so we'll see if your answer is similar. What does a warrior spirit mean to Cathy Compton?
Oh, wow. A warrior spirit. Wow. First of all, a spirit is, I think we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings. And a warrior spirit to me is being willing to go beyond what's comfortable, do what's maybe even predictable, go beyond that and fight for something, and not fight against something, fight for something, fight for your dream, fight for peace, fight for the love that you have with the person across from you that annoys the heck out of you because you don't know how to communicate. Like, be a warrior and be willing to, stretch outside of your comfort zone so you could discover literally the warrior and the spirit inside of you. So that's what a warrior spirit, you're an example. You're a demonstrated competency of what it is to be a warrior spirit.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And as always, it's an honor to have you on. I appreciate you and I love chatting with you. Thank you for all this. We'll drop those links so people can contact you and get those other ways to contact you as well. And I just appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Daryl. And God bless. God bless you and all of your viewers.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye now.